Hello YouTube, my name is Patrick MacDonald and I own MacDonald Timing. And today we're setting up for our very first cross-country weekend of the year. So it's our first cross-country weekend of the year. Normally that would still require a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to chips and everything, but for this particular year, we've got a brand new reader and new mats that we need to work in. So I need to make sure that those test out okay. I also have our new scoreboards that we got in the winter. Need to make sure that those are actually set up for a better setup for cross-country. Long story short, track season, we run them a different way, then we'll run them for cross, so we're going to take care of that. And then I've got to get my wife's kit ready because she's going to be staying here and doing a different meet than I am, so I need to make sure that she's got her cameras and everything's communicating and that she has enough cables and wires and all that stuff. So I got to make sure that that's taken care of. So that's day 1 and day 2 out in the garage. And then on day 3, I've got to come back inside and do all the chips. And actually, this is a relatively small weekend of chips. Only about 450 or so chips that are going out. Normally we're almost 3 or 4 times that. So a relatively small amount of chips. Incredibly boring. So you'll be seeing me wearing headphones, listening to podcasts for that hour. And all of this is going to go by super fast because it's all sped up. So yeah, these are the new to us mats, and just unboxing them, and that's the new reader. Gonna go ahead and test at least the new reader and check out the battery life on it. I want to make sure that it's communicating as well. When you get these, you often have to change the IP address so they're actually communicating with finished links. So that's what I'm up to right now. Also, sorry about the lighting. Should have known better, but looked okay originally, but here we go. That's our scoreboard setup, working on trying to get that communicating and operating the way that we want to. Normally we just run a row of 1, but we're running a row of 2 of them this time, and so trying to get that dialed in to make sure that we're displaying that data properly. As you saw, we're able to get 3 lines of reports on there. Then day 2, coming back out with a bunch of the stuff, and this is where I'm getting my wife's kit ready, making sure that all of her stuff is actually in there and communicating properly. Making sure that she has enough Ethernet cables, and the black bag in the center is actually all of her extra stuff that hopefully she doesn't need and doesn't need to break into. So this is basically all the stuff that my wife and technician need to go time tomorrow. Have 1 laptop to put in here, but in this box we've got the main camera as well as the start system and the Identilinks, which is a forward-facing camera. It looks at the athletes' bibs as they come across. In here we've got a battery backup, and that's where the network switch goes. Printer, of course. This is the actual RFID reader. The silver box here, which weighs 300 tons. So this is what connects to the mats. The mats are right here underneath the van. The van's hood is open just to charge up the battery. It does have a tendency to go flat. Otherwise, 202,000 miles is a pretty small thing to have it keep working well. Knock on wood. This bag has all the extra stuff that they might need, a nice long extension cord, if you can imagine. And then in here we've got a bag with one of our nice tripods, and then this is the running time scoreboard, and then the tripod for that scoreboard, and of course a table, which is not actually fully necessary. So this is the basic amount of kit that they're going to have. There's no weather predicted, so we're not going to send them out with a tent. It's also a really, really small event, 49 athletes, so I think we'll probably be okay sans tent. But this is basically what we got to send them out with and what we got to get ready for them every time that we go out on the road. For me, in the van, I've got basically the same amount of stuff, only instead of the small running time scoreboard, I've got 6 panels that we've got to run running time, and then also the results on it. And I've got a couple of the little extra things in there as well. The meet that I'm going to is much larger than that one, so I've got a little bit of extra backup stuff in there. Still some things to do this afternoon. Got to take in the camera that's coming with me and get that set up and making sure that it's working, and then got to get the chips ready, and that'll be the next thing you see. So the basic process for this is that we print off labels for all the teams that we're going to see that particular weekend and label the bags that you see there. They're all little Ziploc bags. Count out the number of chips that we're going to need for every single meet, and then double that number for the number of zip ties that we're going to need and use, and put them all in the bag and go from there. So that was for the college meet that my wife is doing, and now I'm doing the college/high school meet that I'm taking care of down in Texas. And you can't really see it, but at the very, very end, I take all the bags and I try to get out all of the air in them so I can keep them nice and tight. For a weekend like this, really not that big of a deal, but when we're doing, sometimes 40, 50, 60 teams, it does actually make a difference. All that little extra air kind of adds up. So you can see the little tiny cocktail straw that I use for it. So now I'm waking up in Longview, Texas. We had some rain the night before, so it's pretty humid, but actually could have been a much worse day. It ended up being only about 85 at its high before I hit the road. Got really, really lucky with cloud cover. So right now, just trying to get everything out and get it roughly in place. So, I've got the cameras on the tripods and I've got the mats rolled out, but nothing is really plugged in. So going around, plugging everything in, working on the scoreboard there, that has, every single panel has 3 or 4 cables attached to it in some fashion. So just going around, plugging in Ethernet cables, seems like it takes forever, and it kind of does. Getting the generator out, it's still not running, I don't think, at this point in time. It's always the last thing that I boot up because there's so many other things that I can do where I don't need power. So I'm trying to make sure that that's the last thing that we have going on. And yeah. Final adjustments on the Identilinks always seems to take quite a bit of time. Truthfully, I was expecting a phone call or two from my wife right now, but everything went well for her. That's one of the Laterno coaches. We were catching up about stuff and talking about their new facility. Trying to finalize the scoreboard. So that little laptop there is actually what's running the scoreboard. Just trying to test everything out, make sure everything is actually up and running and working and communicating. So here we go. We have racers actually coming into the finish line, and I'm just kind of trying to watch them and make sure that we've got everybody registering within the system and that their marks are being associated with them. And if sometimes we see somebody coming across without a chip, I'm going over, talking to them, figuring out who they are, and making sure that we get them in the results properly. And obviously this is after the fact. Pretty much everything worked just fine. We do need to get some new batteries for the new reader that we just purchased. I did find out that the hard way, and my wife had to manually score one of the races. Not a big deal. It's a very, very small race. But, we got things worked out, and if we were going to have a failure, we want it to be on this weekend where it's a little bit smaller and we're capable of kind of handling stuff. Obviously we don't want a failure in 3 weeks when we're doing a 1,600 person event over at Russellville High School. That would be a little bit harder to handle. But thank you very much for watching, and hope you enjoyed. And if you like this, hit the button and subscribe. Thank you.